Hello. Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello, I can hear you.
Okay. But you can't see me.
I cannot see you.
Yeah, I know because I have opened the video, but there's no image appearing. So I suppose they are not happy with my how I look. Anyhow, whatever it is.
Right.
Hey, I think we got about wait for another 5 minutes or so and then start off. Yeah. I don't know. I told him to come there. Well, or you can send him back. Either way, it doesn't matter. Yeah, no, better for you to wait there because today is the Rebi Javardhan memorial lecture. I didn't know that. I would have opted for. Yeah, I'll call when I finish. Yeah, yeah. Okay, bye. අන්මියුට් කරනකොට මම කතා කරනකොට ඒගොල්ලන් අහන්න පුළුවන් මේ පික්චර් එක නම් එන්නේ නැහැ මගේ වීඩියෝ එක. No, no, where do I? I unmuted myself, so I think they can hear me, but I think I muted it again. Oh, no. Okay, thanks. And so, okay. I don't see myself, but they can see me. I don't know on the corner that they don't need to see me or I don't need to see. Okay, thanks. You're Madhusan. You're one. No, no, Vijita came earlier. Okay, anyway, people are new. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Ron. Hello, can you all hear me? Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you, but if you could turn your volume up a little, it might be more helpful. Thank you.
How do I turn my volume up? The volume was 89% and now brought it to 100. Like that's as far as I can
Better,
go.
better. It's much better now. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So shall we start off?
Yes, please. Okay by me.
I turned the volume up to 100. I don't know if you can, because they said that they could hear, so I. Oh, okay. Hello,
Hello. I can
can
hear
you
you.
hear? Is it better now?
It's better. It's much better. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Because one of the gentlemen here came and readjusted it. Right, okay. Thank you, everyone. So I trust you can all see the screen as well.
Yes, we can.
You can hear and see the screen. You don't need to see me. I don't think. I don't know that. Anyhow, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, this is one of the regular features of the IESL, the Code of Ethics lecture, in preparation for the BPA exam, which will be held on the 29th of September. So the Code of Ethics is one of the key instruments in your practice as engineers. And the whole purpose is to make sure that whatever you do is done in a correct, honest, ethical way. We unfortunately do not see that happening around us in society or in politics or whatever it is. But we are hoping that the engineers will be people who will uphold the correct ways of doing things and do them so that it is beneficial to society and the country, rather than unfortunately doing things for their own benefit, which we find happening quite often. Anyhow, so having given that little pep talk, I will get down to the IESL Code of Ethics. In fact, I have sent the slide. I think my presentation, I have sent it to Sanjeeva, and it should be on the IESL on their web page somewhere. You can later on, you want to get it out too. Well, I might skip certain things also because of time issues. Now, what I'm basically going to talk is about a very brief introduction to ethics, right? And then we will look at the IESL Code of Ethics, and then the Code of Ethics of Engineering Institutions. I'm taking like 5 major engineering bodies in the globe, right? Of different for various countries, and we look at see how close or how far apart are they from what we are trying to say here is the IESL code of ethics. And then after the first two sections, I have allowed two case studies which will show you how things can go wrong if we do things in a haphazard or unethical way. Right? As engineers, we are taught to analyze situations, to work within our capabilities and our competences, and we are expected to do things correct. But we have, over the past, in Sri Lanka and globally, we find that there have been number of cases where people have tried to take shortcuts or try to avoid for whatever reason. For sometimes it's also commercial aspect because the demands of the business or the politics or the government is greater than what, and they go against advice from the engineers about a particular project and end up making a hash of it. And then finally, this one I may not touch on, but I just kept it in the presentation, disciplinary procedures, because there's no point having a code of ethics if you don't have some way of taking some corrective action. Now, people quite often might lodge a complaint to the IESL saying that so and so has done something which is incorrect, which is illegal, and which is violating the IESL code of ethics. So how do you set about correcting? We are not a police body. We are not. We are not say legally designed to carry out these things. But what we do is we will have a fairly relatively simple investigation and keep it all home and with all engineers involved. No, we don't encourage lawyers and all be brought in because then it becomes a big mess. And try to solve the problem and resolve the issue so that, and really what we really would do is really to tell the person if he has done something wrong, this is not the right thing to do, and advise them to avoid doing things that are not correct, to always do things in the as set out in the code of ethics, which really helps you to do things in a correct way. So that's where the disciplinary procedures come in. We have had to take, generally it will be a letter of warning or pressure, as it were. One or two cases in the past, people have been, say, suspended for a year or two or something like that. But or with one case, which I was personally involved in, they've ordered the charge was withheld for 3 years because there was a bit of a bad case. But we try to ensure that the person does not suffer. We don't want the engineer's career to be put on hold, because if you were to technically you can remove the person from the institution, which means that then that person is lost and he is not in a position to carry on with his profession in Sri Lanka. And maybe now, since we are also linked up with all of the international bodies, and we are members of the International Engineering Alliance and various other international bodies, the word gets around that mistakes shall be suspended for something incorrect. And these things can go against you when if you go abroad, even and you try to apply for a job. But we hope and pray and we try our best to prevent things getting that bad, because we don't want to see people suffer because of some small mistake or small or even fairly a mistake that has been made. Now, what is ethics? Thank you. Thank you. Ethics basically is the concept of dealing with what is good and bad, with moral duty and obligation. So basically, I mean, this is something that from your childhood you are taught. Your first introduction to ethics is in your home as a family, where your parents tell you, okay, this is what you want to do, this is what and you must do, this is what are the good things that you do, you must eat your food, you must be obedient, all that type of stuff that you are told. And the things that you mustn't do is like, pull the dog's tail or things and, hurt people and, waste food and stuff like that. So basically, you from your childhood, you are exposed to ethics. So you can't say that you don't know what ethics is. You may not know the term, but the term basically means that right and wrong, right? And then you go to school when you're a little older, it's still, formative years. You start your schooling at 5, you actually start with a preschool, and then you go into say 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, go into a proper school. And there you interact with people. Earlier in the home, it is only your family circle. Now here, when you go to school, you are exposed to meeting and interacting with others who are also of the same age group as you, most probably same plus or minus social status and all that type of thing, right? And you learn to mix with people and get along with people. So right through your childhood, you're exposed to ethics. And your teachers in school will tell you what's the right thing to do, what's the wrong thing to do. They are taught discipline, for example. Now, that's something that people in the house don't like to teach now. They don't. But in school, you are taught discipline. You are taught to be, and you can be punished, right, if you don't observe what has to be done. So school is the next. And then in Sri Lanka, fortunately, unlike in a lot of the other Western so-called developed countries, we still religion plays a fairly important role in our society. Generally, as a child, you will be sent to the Dham Pasala or the Sunday school or the equivalent of the Muslim or the Hindu or the whatever the religion is, the thing for instruction for young people, for youth. And you learn that religion, or at the end of the day, religion also tells you to do the right thing. It does not advocate that you do the wrong thing. So bottom line is that you, right to your childhood, you expose to ethics, and so by the time you are to your primary and your secondary education, by the time you come to the end of your secondary education and you are about to go into university for your tertiary education, you should have a fairly good concept, an idea of what ethics is. Now, skipping a lot of other things in between this, why do you want to have a code of ethics? To define accepted and acceptable behavior. Basically tell you that you must always do the right thing, the correct thing, to do things in a correct way. Right? To promote high standards of practice. Now, as professionals, as engineers, and this applies to any profession, doctors, engineers, architects, accountants, anybody, you have to maintain a very high standard of practice. Right? You can't do things in a slipshod way. in a haphazard way, right? You got to maintain a good level of practice. Provide a benchmark for members to use for self-evaluation. Sometimes, when you're working, when you get employed, you will find that you come up with a situation where you have a conflict with the union, with some other or some problem in the company. And there you can look at the code of ethics and see how best, what would be the best advice that the code of ethics will give you to solve that problem. So it gives you a criterion. It gives you a criterion for getting to know a problem, addressing a problem, and finding a solution. Then this is again the same thing, to establish a framework for professional behavior and responsibility, because as professionals, our behavior and responsibilities are open to the world. Everybody can see us. We can't hide behind.
Oh, Ken.
Hello?
Orang karena lah, telepon nanti.
Hello? As a vehicle for occupational identity, basically, the IESL, because it's a well-established, engineering established occupation in the country. When I say vehicle, it doesn't mean that it's a four-wheel drive. It basically means that it is a means for people to appreciate that your profession, your engineering profession is a top profession in the country, which has very valuable contribution to the national cause. And also, it also indicates that your profession is a very mature profession. It's been in the country. For the IESL, for example, the IESL itself is over 120 or 130 years old, right? It was established in 1906, and now we are at 1924, so it's about 120 odd years. And it's a very mature profession in the medical profession is slightly older than that. But all the other accountants and architects are much younger in a sense, but still you are considered a mature, well-established profession. And the main thing, the public who you serve expect that you will always do the correct thing. So now we start with a little introduction. Let's get on to the IESL Code of Ethics. Now, the IESL Code, how many of you all have looked? I hope you all have looked at the IESL Code of Ethics that is there on the IESL web page, and earlier it was printed in printed form. Now it's all there electronically and on the virtual platforms. Because I would expect that you should be familiar or have some idea of what the IESL Code of Ethics has and is and what it says. If you come blind and expect to, sit for exam in a week or two and then pass, I think you are pushing things a bit too far. But anyhow, you have to, I think I would advise that you read through the IESL Code of Ethics. So I will tell you all about it, and it's there in my presentation. And you be familiar with what it is. Now, the IESL Code of Ethics has 9 clauses. There are 9 clauses in the IESL Code of Ethics, and each clause has, some have 2 or 3, some have 5, 6, 7, up to over 8 or 9 sub-clauses. And also each of these address a particular problem. So if you look at clause 1, the main clause says, engineers shall hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public and the proper utilization of funds and other resources in the performance of their professional duties. It shall take precedence over their responsibility to the professional, sectional, and private employers or to other engineers. Bottom line, is that as an engineer, you are responsible to the people, the public, right? Engineers hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. And generally, as an engineer, when you're doing a project, you are entrusted with funds and resources, and you are supposed to use those resources in a proper manner for the benefit, for the public benefit, not to pocket half of it and build your own house or something like that. So you are supposed to, the main focus is on the people. And your mission is to work for the people. The people, right? Now, so the first subclause says that engineers shall be objective and truthful in professional reports, statements, and testimony. Basically, this is fairly straightforward. As an engineer, we expect that you will, if you have to give a report or write a report or make a statement, or you have someone to quote and you have to make give a statement to the media or whatever it is, you tell the truth. But you talk on areas that you are familiar with, that you know, right? Very often we find that people, engineers or including engineers, go talk outside their area of knowledge or the area of competence. And that is something that is wrong and is not encouraged. We see that that comes up in some of the later clause. So basically the clause 1 says that you should be honest and truthful in whatever statements or whatever you say. And quite often when there's a calamity, you are called on by the media or some, give a statement of what has happened and how it can be prevented, etc. So don't try to show off. Be honest in what you say. This is a very important clause. Shall endeavor at all times to maintain engineering services essential to public welfare. Service to the public. Now in Sri Lanka especially, we know that a lot of our services for public, like the water supply, the electricity, the sewerage, the public transport, the railways, all these have been government organizations, government bodies. And the public are dependent on this service. So as an engineer, your job is to ensure that the public are not put, because you are supposed to, if you look at the clause 1 says, to hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. So you cannot, if you disrupt the services, for example, if the Ceylon Electricity Board were to go on strike because they didn't get a salary increase, or some such thing like that, you're hurting the public. So lakhs of hundred thousands of people in the country are being affected by this, by your action. Or the water board goes, the water supply is cut. When the railway, you see, when the railway service goes strike, people are hanging on to the few trains that run, they have no way of transport, or they are heavily inconvenienced. So this is something that we don't want. And who is the people who suffer really the most are the poorer people, the people who use the public transport, or the people who are dependent on. Now, a lot of the people who can afford it have solar panels and all on the roof, so they have some sort of electricity. But the poor man, the average middle class person who can't afford that, is dependent on the CB supply. Water supply is the same problem, right? So you must always know that, and this is why it is not a accepted thing for any engineering or any professional organization or institution that has a big engineering impact on the public to inconvenience the public by resorting to strike action or things like that. So service to the public is a very key issue that you have to remember to maintain. And then standards. You should work. Most of engineering design work, as you know, is done based on engineering standards. In the good old days, we used the British standards. Now we are talking of ISO standards and Euro standards, and we have so many other new, more relevant standards coming out. And why is it important to work, to do your design work in line with the standards? The importance is because standards allow for the safety of your whatever you're designing, your machine or your structure or whatever it is. Because if you do a design from first principle, you will arrive with if you take a structure, you will arrive with a column of a certain dimension with certain reinforcement, etc., for a particular loading. But the design loading, the loading that they're using there may be times when there are overloads. There are wind forces, or there are snow, like various, depending on where you are, right? And then the loading can get changed. So if you and so that's where we have what's called a factor of safety that is built into our standards. Generally, it used to be about 3, between 2 and 3. So that when you design a structure, it is the safety is assured, is guaranteed to a much greater extent, because it can take any unforeseen overload that can occur. So this is why, as engineers, we are supposed to work with standards and work to standards. Then you should not create a conflict of interest between your engineer, the client, and the employer, and the public, and others who are involved. Now, conflict of interest, I'll come to this when we come to some of the other, means that basically, if you're being paid by somebody to do a job, you're employed by, say, by the highway department as one. Then your job is to do the designs for the highway department. You can't go spare time and do design work for some contractor who is also supplying things, who is also working on projects of the highway department. So then there is a conflict, because you see your design that you're doing for him, because you know the people who are approving, because you are a member, they might, and you are a member of the institution, they might pass it, but they may not examine it fully, thinking that you know what you're doing. But you should avoid this situation where you create a conflict of interest, where we can lead to not the best solution to a problem. Then conviction. This is something again which you will come up against in your work when you're working. Now, for example, you are asked to your employer, and you're the one engineer there, and he tells you, I want to put up a new factory in a rural area, a rubber processing factory, and can you come up with a design? So you come up with a design, and then and you have put in say if you're talking rubber processing, there is a lot of liquid effluent that is created, because to coagulate the rubber, for example, you use acetic acid, and then you wash the acetic acid, you wash the rubber, and so that water that has to be in. Now, what could happen, and this is what has been happening in the past, that water that goes is put into the nearest little stream or river. So you're polluting the river, and the people who are downstream of the factory, will have a problem. They can get, and if there are chemicals or very toxic matter in that curve, they can be affected. So it is your job then to tell your boss, look, this is not correct, this is not the best solution. We have to have a water treatment plant before the water can be discharged into a waterway. There are the national standards that require under Clean Water Act certain water levels of water that can be discharged safely. If he does not, if he does not agree to that and he says that it's a waste of money, why should we do that? This is some out of the way rural joint, right? I don't know, who's bothered if a few cattle and some village folk, catch something, that's not my problem. Then it's your duty to report him, to inform the authorities that there is a violation of the rights of the people. The rights of the people of that is also any village that is or whoever is using that waterway for their bathing and they don't have pipe-borne water, so they for their daily ablutions and cooking and all that, they are going to get poison, contaminated water. So it's your job to inform the authorities, the environmental authority or the local government people or whoever it is, that there is a violation going to be taken place here. You have to leave your job, but at least you have been honest and you have been done the correct thing, because so ideally you should try to convince your employer that he should, in a way, do the correct thing and not pollute the water. Or same with emission. Like if you're sending a lot of particulate matter from your gas emissions from your smokestack, then you need to have tapping that and ensuring that clean gas only is expelled. Because your duty is to keep the safety, health, and welfare of the public intact, not to harm them by poisoning them or whatever it is. The next subclause is that you should contribute to public discussion on engineering matters in areas of your competence. You talk on what you know, on what you are specialist in. Because your advice will be looked up as an engineer, people will respect your advice, but it must be advice that is given, the correct advice that is given, and we will serve for the well-being, for the benefit of the community. Right. Sometimes what happens that people like to talk and come on TV and show themselves, but they are not competent to talk. And they con their way through a lot of things, but at the end of the day, later on they get exposed to the people. All you need is for a smart interviewer to know that these guys are conning their way through and not saying the correct thing. So you bring discredit to the engineering profession also when you do things like that. Then this is the seventh. Now, if you know that one of your colleagues or somebody doing a wrong thing, which is in violation of the code of ethics, then it is your duty to inform the authorities that there's something incorrect happening. This is what's called whistleblowing now. This is something that was, bottom line is this is sneaking. In school days when you're in school and you see somebody doing something wrong, you go and tell the teacher, and that's why so did this. And then that will come back you later on. But basically sneaky, but in industry. And especially this has got prominence in the field of accountancy, where a lot of the company, all the companies and government, state and private sector companies have to be audited. And the auditors have to ensure that everything has been done correctly with no hanky-panky practices being carried out. Now, if the audit person doing the audit finds that there is something that is not, doesn't seem right, their first duty will be to ask the company or the accountant or whoever they deal with, there is this thing which is an error. What is the problem here? Right? And then that person has to give an explanation why. But if the explanation doesn't seem to be valid, doesn't seem to be a correct explanation, the auditors can ask about what the time and talk about a higher levels up to the board of directors and say, look, there is a problem, but we need to have a correct explanation for this. Then, and if you still can't get an answer, then you go to what the Securities Exchange and report the matter, and then they will carry out an investigation. So this is what whistleblowing is, and this. And instead of this into their operation, because very often the explanation very often telling that. So if they cannot get a good explanation from the organized from the inform, their duty is to inform the Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, that there is something that we find not quite not quite correct, and we cannot get an answer from this. Maybe you can. So the Security Exchange has a lot of power, and so if they ask the company has to come out with a very good answer, otherwise they will be penalized. So then the next eight sub-clause is that you don't do anything that is dishonest. You don't participate in any waste or misappropriation of public funds, because you are supposed to be a person who's working for the public. The public look up to you. They have paid for your education and given you free education in university, in your primary, secondary, and your tertiary education. So they expect and they respect the engineer for what the engineer is doing. So you can't be dishonest, and you have to make sure that whatever you do is done in a correct and honest way. And then again, when there is some project that comes up that requires a problem, you have to have a dialogue. Now, say, for example, that when you are carrying out a project, you have to you're going to lay for a water supply scheme or a storage scheme, you're laying pipe or electricity cables, right? And you have to dig up the road. Now, when you are going to dig up the road in a particular area, you are going to inconvenience the residents there. Because you are digging up, they won't be able to, there will be a lot of dust, there will be noise, there will be, they may not be able to take their cars out of the garage or onto the main road, because there will be trains going across in front of the gate. So before you start, you have to tell the people, look, we have to do this. This is the problem, because this is the only we will do it, but we will try to do it as fast as possible, and there will be a minimum. We will try to do it to the minimum inconvenience to you, and where possible, for example, in this question of a trench where you can't take a vehicle, we will put a couple of steel plates across the trench so that you can drive your car out in and out when you are going to work, and things like that. So you talk with the people, and when you have and the people appreciate that when you discuss and explain the problem. If you just go and dig a trench there and they can't take the car out, they'll be hell to pay. They'll come and shout at you, and they'll go to run to the minister, and there would be a lot of unnecessary problems. So always get you to talk with people, have dialogue with the people, so that and explain what you're going to do. Because they think that you are the engineer, you know what you're doing. And then when you explain, then they know that you're doing whatever you're doing, because you got to do it, but you will have their interest, their well-being at the forefront of your mind. So that really, these 9 sub-clauses really embody the whole of the main issue of looking after the welfare of the health, welfare and the safety of the people, right? And not misusing or abusing the funds and the resources that are placed at your disposal. So that is clause 1. It's a very big clause, but it really embodies everything that is expected of the engineer. Now, if you look at clause 2, engineers shall act in a manner to uphold and enhance the honor, integrity, and dignity of the professional while safeguarding public interest at all times. Basically, what it says, you don't do things that will bring discredit to your institution, to your profession, right? Always behave in a way that will enhance your value in the eyes of the public, honor of the profession. So the first subclause is that you shall not involve yourself in any business or professional practice which you know is fraudulent or dishonest in nature, right? And this quite often now, because of the unethical and the poor quality of people who we have at the top of the governing of our nation, a lot of dishonesty and a lot of unprofessional things happen. A lot of fraudulent things happen. So you sometimes, but you are the person who has to take the rap at the end of the day. So you must be very careful that you do not involve yourself in anything that could lead to a fraudulent or dishonest practice. Then you shall not use association with other persons or partnerships or corporations to conceal unethical acts. So if you do something wrong, you don't run to your uncle who is a minister or your father who knows the chairman of the corporation and try to get them to cover up your sins. If you have done something wrong, you admit and say that this happened, this was the reason accidentally it happened or whatever it is, and say that okay, make sure you don't repeat it. So you don't use association or links with other people to cover up your shortcomings. You do not continue in partnership with or act in professional matters with an engineer who has been removed from membership of the IESL because of improper conduct. Now, you can be removed from the IESL if you don't pay your subs or something. But that is not improper conduct, right? I mean, that is something, okay, for some reason you gone abroad for so many years and you have not been able to pay your subs or whatever else. But if you have been found guilty of some other problem and you are removed from the IESL, then you are ceased to be a member. Now, let's say you have a company, you are a say a design engineer, and your friend is also a design structural design engineer, and you have start a company saying Pereira and Fernando chartered civil engineers or whatever it is, right? Now, unfortunately, Mr. Fernando does something naughty, and he is investigated and removed from the role of the IESL. Now, when that happens, you cannot maintain the company name as Pereira and Fernando Chartered Engineers because Mr. Fernando is no longer a chartered engineer. He has been stripped of his title for something that is very, very naughty. So you have to then change the name of the company and remove him from he has to be removed from the board of directors or whatever of the company, and you can then, if you have your sons are also now qualified, you can have Pereira and Sons, not bakers, but engineers who can carry on with the business. But you don't continue to work with people who are dishonest. This is what we are trying to say. If you know somebody has been dishonest, somebody has done something illegal, or if you have done something, you don't try to hide behind matters. You come out in the open. And this is, of course, something that also it brings, that happens quite often when you are hiring people, when you are recruiting people, you recruit people on the basis of merit. You want the best people for your organization. Very often we find that if you go, you might get a name, couple of some top people will send you names of so and so to please take them in. If you are recruiting about like 50, 60 people, like I know I was on the CEB panel for recruiting, or choice of, I've been on these panels for recruiting mechanical engineers. You are taking about 30 to 40 fellows, then one or two people you can take on this basis. But if you want one or two, you're recruiting one or two people, you really want the best people. And you want the guy who has the best qualifications, the best experience, the guy who can be the most beneficial to your company, not some passenger who is there just because he's, if somebody has some connection somewhere. So you always ensure that when you are recruiting, you always try to take people who are the top of the pile for the organization. Because that is how your organization can grow in stature, not by having passengers. And also we always remember that, you see, now you have a team of people working. Sometimes we tend to take it for granted that, okay, we hired them at this pay salary and we are paying them better and fine. But with the changing for your economic situation country, also you need to look at the fact that we need, because there are the market demand for such people, good people goes up. So you have to make sure that you can also adjust your remuneration to the staff you have, in line keeping with the qualification and the market value of that person for that particular job. So these are things that you need to look at, but really these are some of the things that also, and because when you do this, people recognize the engineering profession as being an honest body. Engineers have been honest, and people who do things in a correct way, right? And not try to exploit people by underpaying them, or by taking some half-baked character who, because he's the nephew of a minister or something like that. But you are taking the best people, and you're trying to, and by you're taking the best people, the public who are the beneficiaries of the service your company is giving, or your institution giving, are the people who will benefit. And the public gets the best deal by having the best people there. Okay? So that concludes clause 2. Now let's see clause 3. Clause 3 is that engineers shall be committed to the need for sustainable management of the planet's resources and seek to minimize adverse environmental impacts of the engineering works or applications. This basically deals with the safeguarding the environment. You see, a lot of the environmental problems that we are faced with now are because of bad engineering practices in the past. People didn't realize that technology could cause so much damage to the environment. So sustainability is something that is a must that you need to be conscious of before you embark on any major project. So the first thing you do before you start on any major project is to evaluate the adverse environmental impact and incorporate practical remedial measures to minimize them. Environmental protection. So basically, I mean, now you may be knowing, before any major project is launched, there is an environmental impact assessment done, an EIA, where you will analyze all the positives and the negatives that project will cause, and that can cause harm to the environment and to society. Now when we look at a project, we look at any project now is not pure engineering. Every project is a multidisciplinary project which incorporates all. You're building a road. In addition to the engineering part and the structural and the highway design and all that type of thing, there are also, like, you have to go a long road is going to you have to acquire land. If you're going to cause an impact on the surf, because you have to acquire land from villages because you have to, or from the rural areas because you have to widen the road. They have a narrow 2-lane road going to, or a single 1-lane road. Now you want to have a 4-lane road so that they can access the nearest town where they can bring their produce for sale. So, also there are a lot of things that come into play. Sometimes the roads have to go through jungle reserves. It has crossed bridges, crossed rivers. How do you, all these have to be done and addressed so that you do not cause any damage to the environment. Then you should also be aware, I think, as engineers, that there are a lot of legislative rules and regulations that are there if you go to the National Environmental Authority website, you will find that there are lots of rules and regulations and various policies that have been put out, and you should be familiar with them. You don't need to know them by heart, but you should know how they would apply to some of the work you're doing. If there is a major, if there's some issue, there are legal specialists who will be able to handle that. But as an engineer, you should also be aware of these, and especially for your particular project, how these will say, for example, wildlife laws, Clean Air Act, all these things that come into play with your pollution of water, all this type of thing, which things that can result from the carrying out of your project. So you need to be aware of the legislative framework that would govern your project. And like I said, nowadays we have any project. It's not only engineers, but you have engineers. Engineers also, you have sometimes we have 3-4 different disciplines of engineers. There will be the power, the highways, the structural for bridges or for buildings, geotechnical engineers. Then there will be also other people like the environmentalists. There will be, if you're going to a jungle, there will be wildlife specialists or coastal coastal specialists. So there are so many people, marine biologists, people who are involved and have something to do with safeguarding the environment because of this project. And you can't say that I'm the engineer, I'm the captain, I know everything. You don't. You have to work with others and ensure that you have to cooperate with others, because each man has his own specialty that he can give towards ensuring that the environment is saved, which we don't for years and years and years in the past. Now at least there is some genuine effort being made to save the environment. And I think as engineers, we have a responsibility to ensure that this is done in a correct way. Then the fourth subclause is that if you're using new proposed projects and appeal of technology, resources, sustainability. Now, if you're using some new technology that's been coming in, and you need to see how it can affect the environment or the For example, for example, 5G. People have been worried about 5G and saying that it can be harmful to people. You need to analyze and see. Tunnel boring. When the tunnel boring machine was used for the first time here in, I think, for this project, it caused a lot of problems because I think it was not really analyzed and proper steps were taken to implement and use the machinery. So you have to, when you are bringing any new technology, you have to make sure that it's not going to cause any environmental disasters by using it. But analyze it and make sure that everything has been done in a correct way. And your project will not cause any harm to the environment, and which means it does not cause harm to the public and the people, not only this generation, but generations to come. Then another area, of course, this is something that is something practical that you can do is to minimize or reuse waste and the safe disposal of waste. You don't just go and dump waste in some places. They have a landfill. You have to have a scientifically designed landfill, or where possible, reuse the plastic packaging material, like cardboard boxes, the things which you use. Now people are reusing these, and they take it back and they maybe use it 3 or 4 times, and then send it to a paper mill to be broken down and remade into fresh sheets of cardboard and things like that. So you maximize the waste because you reusing it, or you're or disposing of it in a safe way. And then conservation, again, we talk about conserving electricity. We don't waste the few resources we have. Our resources are now running out. Fuel oils are running out. That's why we are looking at now on this environmentally friendly energy sources. And wherever possible, we have to conserve and make the best use of our natural resources so that we don't end up with a point where we are starved of the resources we need for the running of the country or the organization or whatever you want to. But really, at the end of the day, the country and then the world is the ultimate body that suffers, the global suffering that is caused by misuse of environmental or disregard for environmental principles. Now, clause 4. Clause 4 says that engineers shall build a reputation on merit and shall not compete unfairly. Basically, you have to earn your place in society because of your merit and your capabilities. And you don't compete unfairly. Now, there are a number of sub-clauses in this particular clause because people are very, very smart at doing the wrong thing and competing unfairly. Firstly, you don't resort to bribing. You don't try to go up the ladder by bribing your way and making political contributions, and nowadays these are common things that happen. So, but bribery is something that is very rampant in this country, and you don't try to improve your status in your company or your society or by bribery. And in an organization, bribery can be a relatively small. You don't need to give money and things. But one example, and this actually happened on this, where this one of these guys, he was not a great not a very smart guy, but he was smart in one way. He knew how to get what he wanted. So what he did was he was an executive, so he got to know his uh, boss's birthday, wedding anniversary, the wife's birthday, and things like that. And then for her birthday, he would send her a bouquet of flowers. For the boss's birthday, he would send her a nice bottle of, scotch or something, whatever it is. And but more the wife, right? To flowers and things. And so when this promotions come, the wife would put in a word for him. Now that was bribery. That was bribery. He was not supposed to give him money, but he was buying because he was not competent to do the job properly, but he knew how to go up the ladder by buying by indirectly getting his working his way up the ladder to the top. He didn't go right to the top, but anyhow, he well, I think finally when that particular director resigned or something and was retired, then he had problem. He also had to go because but that's one way by bribery. Of course, you can also give money and various things, but this is a very simple way of that's how bribery is done, and it's not necessarily that you have to dole out big amounts of money to then you undercut. You see, when we say there are a couple of engineers or a couple of your colleagues who are trying to get a place and there's a promotion coming up, and you don't try and somebody has been appointed, now but you want a job, but somebody, your colleague has been given a job because he is better qualified than you, he has more experience, and whatever it is, he's a better engineer, a better tutor. So you go now spreading stories about him and said that this guy was affiliated or a member of the wrong for some political party, he did something wrong in the past, and you try to cut down his character by spreading false stories about him. Right? That is not something that is accepted because if you want to get the job, you should be capable of getting the job on your own merit, your own achievements, right? Not by undercutting somebody else or by misrepresenting. This is another thing that we use sometimes when you fill up submit your applications. You will say that you did this thing. You say your qualification now you can't con because all you need is to send a letter to the university or wherever it is or resource and ask, is this person what were his results? And if you said that you got a second upper, when all you got was ordinary pass, that you are exposed straight away. So now it's not easy to get away by misrepresentation. But this you can, and sometimes it is maybe also it happens in a way that when you say that your experience, when you write your experience, you say you did this, and this. Now that again can be found out because all it needs is to check with the company where you worked earlier. And if you had done something that was not really right, and you had really not achieved what you claim you achieved, then you'll be found out. So I think misrepresentation is another thing you must avoid and never always be honest. Give the correct qualification, give your correct picture of yourself in what you have done and your experience. Then malicious talk. This is another one of our famous Sri Lankan habits. Kalapatra, we will put up a kalapa now with the internet and the able to put on all sorts of malicious talk and on WhatsApp and on various other and send it on the countryside on the web. So this is something where you try again discredit a person who is doing better than you because you think that you feel that you should have got the job and you are the best person. You are not the best person. You know you are not the best person, but you try to undercut that person who's getting the job or who is the most likely contender by spreading all sorts of vicious talks about him and his character, his or her character. Then this again is a very common in Sri Lanka. Quite often when you can't get, you use your connections. So you will go and tell your father is a good friend of the chairman of that particular corporation, or where you are trying to apply or to get a job. So you tell Tati, go and tell uncle so and so that to give me. So Tati also very, instead of correcting the son and tell the fellow, look, you better let's see what you have done to justify that position. He goes and tells the chairman, no, my son is a and can you fit him in? He'll do a good job. He knows the son won't do a good job. That's why the rascal running around wasting all his money, but he will, because the son, he will try to cover him up. So you don't use your connections. Use to get what we are saying right from the beginning, try to get the job on your own merit, right? You have to achieve top level of whatever you are doing. And we carry on at that point. And from there onwards, you see how well you can do. You want to get the job, you have to deliver. You have to give show results. And you can't just sit back and wait. Then, of course, don't boast about yourself, be modest, and don't criticize other work of other engineers. You be modest about your work and refrain from unfair criticism of the work of other engineers. If there's something you feel is wrong, you discuss with the person, tell him, I agree with you on this particular thing, like I think this can be done in a better way or more less harmful way to the environment or whatever it is, but don't so publicly try to criticize and say that this person doesn't know what he's doing. That type of thing is bad, and it is demeaning and not expected of a of a top professional. Then always acknowledge the work that that's done by your subordinates and others. And this is again something that I personally have seen happen when we, especially on some of the big projects, the one major big project that is done some time ago in the East Coast, where then I think the president came to open the bridge. And the senior engineer or the project man was always saying that the senior engineer project was a foreigner, but the local man who was there was running behind the president saying that, I did this and I did that and I was able to get this whole thing completed on time and all that. Now all the work was done. There's a whole team of about 10 to 15 different engineers, specialists in structures, in electrics, in everything, in geotechnical, and all of the contributions of all those people resulted in this happening, right? But they were never acknowledged. They were shoved out into some corner and asked to there, while this man ran behind the president to try to impress him and, say that he was the man who did everything. So that is wrong, because you work as a team, and in engineering we work as a team. It's not a one-man show. That is something you have to realize. We always work for the benefit of the public, and we work as a team, because all our projects that we do as engineers are related to the welfare of the people, whether it be a supply of electricity to a rural area, or building a road, or a housing complex for underprivileged people, or irrigation for channels, or whatever it is always for the benefit of the people and the community, not for one particular person. Then don't, of course, resort to plagiarism. I trust you know what plagiarism is. You don't copy the works of other people without acknowledging it. You always have to acknowledge, if you use the work that somebody else has done for a particular purpose, you got to acknowledge it and give credit to that person and say that sometimes you have to write earlier and get his permission to use his or her permission to use that. Otherwise, you can end up with a legal suit, and which will be it will be a very shall we say, it won't be very pleasant because your name will be besmirched as being a dishonest person. And also under intellectual property rights, you have to acknowledge works of other people in your work, in what you do. So it is perfectly all right using the works of other people's work in developing your work, because you are taking their what they have done in some research that they have done in a particular area, and you're building on that to further for your work, your project. But acknowledge it, always acknowledge it. If possible, get permission from them to use it and do it. And this applies to anything, whether not only in engineering, but anywhere this happens. And if, for example, we with this Bluetooth, we use all this music that we use illegally because we don't want to pay buy the music. That is illegal, and that is totally that violation of the intellectual property rights of the people who compose that particular music or whatever it is. So you have to be careful and you have to be honest. And of course, when you have your account, you overcharge or you don't undercharge your clients, but you work on market rates. Sometimes you may overcharge because you have the right political connection, you will get the job anyhow. So you and even though other people might give a better product or a better service, you know you will get the job, so you put a higher price because or you might try to undercut the others by putting a very low professional fee, which at the end of the day you will find that you cannot deliver the goods because you can't give your services at that price. So always be honest in making when you're fixing rates, when you're delivering, when you're preparing a quotation, always do things in an honest way so that you can make the best use of your knowledge, and the public to whom you're providing the service will benefit from what you're going to give them. So plagiarism, I don't think I need to. Plagiarism is basically is fraud, is act of fraud. It involves stealing somebody else's work and lying about it after, because you are not acknowledging it. You are lying, you are saying that it's your own work. So this is what plagiarism is, and don't get caught, because now it's very easy to find out if the report you have written has been written by somebody else earlier, some years ago even, and you are just copying something blindly and you're not acknowledging it. You have to always get the permission, or at least acknowledge that this is some of the work done by so and so in this year, this university, whatever it is, right? This is another very important clause where it says engineers shall perform professional services only in the areas of their competence. Now, you don't go out and work in areas that you are not competent. Right? You have to work in areas of your specialization. Because if you go try to work in areas that you are not specialized in, you can end up with a major disaster. Now, in the past, they felt that any engineer could sign anything and get away. Now you can't. Now, for example, in Sri Lanka, any electricity connection to be given for a building has to be done by a chartered engineer and has to be approved by a chartered engineer that is okay. And the CEB registers, has a list of registered chartered engineers, chartered electrical engineers who can do the job and give that certification. Right? You cannot think that just because you have to be a chartered engineer. You can't be a associate member or anything and try to do this. You can help a chartered engineer in doing the work, but you have to be properly qualified and specialized. Similarly with buildings. Now we think that we have done design a building for as a project in our final year. Okay, that's fine. So we can build, but you can only design only maybe a 2 or 3 story building. Now we are going to like for the basic one, we're going to medium rise to high rise to super high rise and a whole lot of things like that. So that there are various. So the IESL conducts various evaluations with the IESL Institute of Structural Engineers. Sri Lanka carry out evaluation and certifying of engineers to do different levels of building, whether it's high rise, which is maybe 10 to 12 to 30, 14 floors, and then beyond that 15 to 20, or there's another category. So all those things are governed by specialized, and you have to be very, very specialized, because especially when it comes to things like that, like high-rise building, if the wrong person does it, the building collapses, you are going to result in a number of people getting injured and killed. Right? There will be lots of unwanted deaths. So you cannot take the responsibility of doing that. So this thing so the main thing is that engineers will undertake assignment only when qualified by education and experience in the specific technical field involved. Right. Now you say a civil engineer thinks he can do anything from buildings to irrigation to geotechnical to whatever it is. He can't. He has to work in one specialized field, right? Water supply, whatever it is. If an assignment requires a qualification and experience outside their field of competence, then you shall engage a competent professional with necessary qualification and experience and keep the employer and clients informed of the time arrangement. What it basically is trying to say is that you work only in areas that you know. If, for example, your employer tells you, look, I want to do a 10-story building. Now you are only the medium category qualified man. You only can do up to say 6, 8 stories. So you have to then tell him, look, sir, I am not qualified to do a 10-story or 12-story building or whatever it is. My level of competence stays at this point, where I can go up to 8 floors. But I have a good friend of mine who is who's qualified and to do and certified by the IESL and infrastructural engineers to go beyond this point for a 12-story building. And can I get him to then and this then you hopefully negotiate the fees and all that. And then you can also tell your boss you will work with this guy so that you can also learn. And then you can also reapply for getting your competence level upgraded to handle the bigger, higher number of floors. So you work in only areas that you are totally capable of handling. Right? You work on the areas that you can handle, because anything beyond that can result in a serious accident involving a lot of life, injuries, and huge costs of property damage. And then you shall not affix your signature to any plan or document unless you have personally supervised and done the job. Because you see, very often people will come and ask you, look, your charter, can you sign this document for me first? Because it's a small building, you just want to get it signed, and the municipality wants to. You should say, no, let me check the whole thing out. And you ask them to bring the person who did the drawing or did the design first, sit down with that person and go the whole thing. And if you are satisfied that that guy has done a good job and it's an acceptable thing, then you may sign it. Otherwise, you make all these corrections. Because these are things, the flaws I find in your design. And you do all these things and bring, then I will approve it. Because you, once you put a signature, you are responsible. And if anything, on and off use cases of people in various other countries like North Korea and China and all. The building collapses, the contractor and the engineer they can stop. Okay, that's it. Sri Lanka, we get away with blue murder. We don't, nothing happens to us. So be careful because so many people, the lives of so many people are at stake because of bit of dishonesty or on your part or incompetence. So this is one of the most important clauses in the IESL Code of Ethics. Because this also means that you only this is the major way that you can uphold the safety, ensure the safety of the public, the people by doing things only well within your field of competence. Loyalty, this of course means this is a loyalty to your company or your employer. You are expected to work for one person, he's paying for your bread and butter, and you must be loyal to him. You can't be doing side jobs for other people and not discharging your duties to your employer. So you avoid all conflicts of interest. And if there is such a situation comes up, you should inform your client that you have been asked to do something which can lead to a conflict of interest. Now, for example, one example that I can give you here is that some of the one of the major highway projects that was done here, the whole highway design was given by the RDA, but the bridges, the contractors were asked to design and to give a design which the RDA would approve, RDA would check and approve, and then go ahead with the construction. So some of the contractors, they contracted some independent design officers, and some of them approached RDA engineers in the RDA design office and offered them a fairly good package to do the design for them. Now that is a conflict of interest because that is something you're going against what your client, your employer wants. Because your employer, by when you design something, you're in that organization, you design the bridge. The people who are checking it who are also maybe your friends and people known to you. Sorry. Hello. That could lead to a conflict because basically you should not get involved in anything that would be go against the expectations of your employer. And when you are doing something that your employer, if you design that bridge for somebody else and your design may not be the best design, but because you of your friends, because of you, they certify and pass it, then who suffers? The public, the people who get that, who are going to use that road, who are going to use that bridge, they run the risk of something happen, unforeseen happening to them. So that's a conflict of interest, and there has to never be such a situation in how you deal with your carrying out your duties. Then neutrality, that of course this is something that when you come to a senior level, you might be the engineer on a project, where you are between the contractor and the employer and the client. Now you are employed by the client, but he's one of his most senior engineers, but quite often there are situations that come up where you have to approve all the contractors' say payments. Now the contractor will come or come and say that you give a particular time frame to the contractor to do the work, and he comes and says that look, I couldn't do this work because there was rain for 2 weeks, and we couldn't do the work. So you say, okay, now every site there is a chart, a weather chart kept rain, fall, sunshine, all that type of stuff is there. And you can check. So you find that for the period that he's claiming, 14 days he's claiming that period of two, you find that only about, say, 8 days were really bad. Okay, he couldn't work. Other days were light showers. They could have done some work even indoors or some. So you tell him, look, you have basically out of the 14 days of claiming, 8 days I will accept. 6 days, out of those 6 days, maybe 4 days you could have done some work inside. You could have done some work within the building, not outside, so that the rain didn't affect you. And the other 2 days you could have, well, not really, because there was enough. There was no sunshine, it was also there was no rain. So it was dull and overcast, but you could have worked. So I will only say allow you like 10 days. And the other 4 days you will not be allowed. So you have to ensure that you carry out the work and cover up for those 4 days what you have not done. So you are neutral. Similarly, he can come and say, look, when you make a quotation, you're quoting for carrying out the work, say, and all the machinery you have, especially if it's on a large civil engineering contract, the all the earth movers and the graders and all, so much of fuel being used. And you cost it at fuel at the price to prepare the quotation. Now, in our prices keep fluctuating depending on world market and whatever it is. So if the client comes in, look, now fuel has gone up from, I quoted at 100 rupees a litre, now it's gone to 125 a litre, I'm out of pocket. And he gives you all the figures to justify it, then you kept an accept and say, okay. And then you can also talk to the main client, the person who runs the contract, and get that additional funds for paying. So you have to be fair, you have to be neutral, and be fair by both the contractor and the clients. That's where neutrality comes in, right? You don't accept any any financial handouts from people for doing any work, right? You are paid by one person, you only work for that one person. Sometimes a rival firm can offer you a fairly good bribe to let them know how your faring, say, on a big tender, how your firm is doing on a big tender. As far as you are concerned, you don't talk to them. You tell them, look, I am working for company X, that's it. I am not willing to disclose any information to you. Another area that you can get compromised is a lot of, especially in certain areas of, like in the building services, where AC was not there, fire protection, escalator, vertical building, fire protection, all these things are not covered in the routine engineering syllabi that now they have been brought in little by little. So quite often, because you can't find the person to do a proper air conditioning system design or a fire protection system, the contractor will come and tell you, look, I will do the design and give you put it into your spec. Now, when you do that, only the spec is then tailor-made for him. Because the BOQ and the specification cater exactly to what he can offer. But his system may not be the best system. So you have to find somebody who knows, who can give a system and you can also learn who can give a system that will not compromise the sorry, compromise the workings of the by you getting involved in getting free designs or free equipment for that matter, even from any supplier, because the moment you that you're compromising your integrity, because you are then not being loyal to your client, to your employer, who expects you to do things in a correct way. Bribery, quite often people might give you small, I mean, quite only the fairly common thing for people give a little at Christmas or New Year time, they will give you a small, maybe sometimes even a hamper or something, things like that. But even that, a lot of people I know didn't accept that type of thing. But but nowadays the level of bribery, we hear this in some of the other professions, where people are given trips abroad, that the schooling of their children is paid for in foreign university. That level of bribery is something that I don't think it happens in engineering, but some of the other professions, yes, this thing has been happening. Where big pharma step in and look after people who will look after their interest. So that is something that you must avoid at all costs, because the engineer, you are there to look after the welfare of the people, and you have to you have to ensure that you are working in the interest of your employer. Similarly, the 6.6 is again, you don't accept any by commission fee, reward, or any other value from a third party. When you're already advising your client, the client is either your employer or you're hired as a consultant or client. Another one who's also competing in that business can, for that particular tenant, can come and ask you for to find out how are you working on the data and get more information so that they can undercut your client. Similarly, if your client, you feel that their studies, the project is not viable, like what I told you earlier, this issue of putting a factory and putting all the effluent water, the liquid effluent into the river, you have to tell your client or the employer, this is not done. You cannot done, and you have to go in for a good water treatment plant that will ensure that clean water in keeping with the national standards is put into the river or the water. Confidentiality. This is another thing that's very important, because you are not supposed to go and give out information or secrets of what you're doing in your firm to others. This can happen. It's two of the major ways that this happens. If you're involved in R&D, Sri Lanka, we don't know that much, but if you're involved in some big R&D project where you're designing a new machine or something that will have a good market, people will try to find out what it is, and they'll try to bribe you to do that information, so that they can also try to compete with your company and make a better machine. Similarly, when you're working on a big tender for a project, that's the time when a lot of people will try to, from other companies who are also bidding, will try to get around you and find out what's the best way to do this. And then, as we said earlier, you do not sign or seal any plans or anything unless you have personally been involved in that particular job. So otherwise, it will end up in a major disaster for the people. The seventh clause is a very straightforward clause, and it says that you shall always say things as truthful. Now, in clause 1 itself, the first clause itself said that you should give evidence, and whatever you say must be said in a truthful way. The same thing being echoed here. And I think this is very important that you know this, because if you end up with a situation where your company, where there is a legal battle involved, and you go to courts and you give a wrong evidence, and they find that you have said you are giving untrue statements, you can end up by being charged with perjury. And if you know what perjury is, if you don't, go and look it up, because if you are charged with perjury, you will end up with a fairly stiff sentence, could be a jail sentence even, or a heavy fine. So please, if you have to say anything, say something that's honest and truthful, and always talk within your level of competence, like we said earlier. Talk about what you know and what you technically feel is the correct way of handling this. So you have to be precise and knowledgeable in what you say. And also, in case people are trying to bribe you to say the wrong thing, for God's sake, make it known to your superior that somebody is trying to bribe you to give the wrong statement, because other case, because at the end of the day, you will be the one who will be caught, and again, you will end up with a problem, with the issue of perjury being thrown against you. And this is the final clause of the IESL Code of Ethics, the most important clause: continuing professional development and shall actively assist and encourage engineers. That's two. So basically, what it says is that, what's happened here? Oh yeah, that basically engineering, as you know, is not a dead subject. It's a live subject, and it goes on. So it's constantly improving. So you have to keep abreast with the latest knowledge that will be put out in your field of engineering. Right? And this is where continuing professional development is extremely important. Lifelong learning is extremely important for you or for your company, or for the whole engineering profession to advance. I mean, engineering, you look at the field of IT, telecom, computer science, AI, all new areas that are coming. Mechanical engineering, when I did mechanical engineering way back years ago, we basically gear wheels and cams and links and belt drives and things. Now we are talking of mechatronics. Now it's a merging of electronics, IT, and mechanical engineering. So you have to keep abreast with this. You have to learn, and this is why you never stop learning when you're in a field like engineering. You're always learning new things. Okay, and then of course, basically, this is a bit of sales talk that the IESL has put in. We will encourage fellow engineers to support the institution and other professional engineering bodies. And I think that's a very good thing, because I think in Sri Lanka, we have not only the IESL, but you have the IC, the IMECI, the IEEE, the IET, IKME, all these people, ISAKTI, all these people have local branches. And I think it's good for you to get involved with at least one or two other institutions where you can also interact with people outside your user, and get different viewpoints and viewpoints of opinion from people who are in these fields. So that sums up the IESL Code of Ethics, right? I think, what time did we start? About 5:30, 5:30. Maybe a little more that I need to talk. And basically, the IESL Code of Ethics expects engineers to be concerned about people, the first clause talks about the people, safeguard the health, safety, and welfare of the public, the people. Then the second clause is to uphold the honor of the profession, ensure that they practice environmental sustainability. That's the third clause. Fourth clause is to develop your reputation through your own achievements. Practice only in areas of your specialization, and be loyal to your employer. Be truthful in reporting, and be involved in lifelong learning. Okay, I'm going to just my tea has become iced tea, but just drink a little of it. Now I just like to touch on some of the major foreign institutions, engineering The first one is the FEANI, that's the European Federation National. This is like an umbrella body for the European under the EU. And so what they say is that each the countries in the EU, say France or Germany and Italy, they can have their own, but they give a framework. Then you build on that. Then the IEEE, which you all are familiar with, I'm sure, the American Society of Civil Engineers, Engineers of Civil, UK Civil Institute of Civil Engineer, IC UK, and Engineers Australia. Everybody is going to go to Australian places. So it's good for you to know that there are, let's see how different they are from our IESL Code of Ethics. So FIANI says that basically the decision and action of engineers has a large impact on the environment and on society. Now that's what we are also saying. The engineering profession has an obligation to ensure that it works in the public interest with regards to health, safety, and sustainability. So this yeah, I'm in the middle of a lecture now. Yeah. So basically, you're in the middle of the two main clauses, sustainability and welfare of the people are stressed as the main focus of main thing they focus on, and then we go sharing the other clause. What they say is that shall maintain the relevant competence at a necessary level. That's like the ISL clause 5. Right? You work in your level of competence. You shall not misrepresent educational qualifications. That thing comes in, I think, in working under your try to work, achieve your get your recognition by your own merit. Provide impartial analysis, judgment, conflicts of interest. These are all things that are in the ISO Code of Ethics. Prevent avoidable dangers to health and safety and prevent avoidable adverse impacts. Now, this again is linked to the main clauses of where you say you shall look after the health, safety, and welfare of the people, and also the clause 3 where you say you will not do anything that will cause damage to the environment. And you shall you take responsibility for the work you're doing. You can't pass the buck. Remember, as engineers, you cannot pass the buck because whatever you do is very apparent to the world. And you shall respect the personal rights of people with whom you work and the legal and cultural values of that. Because basically, this should really apply to in our Sri Lankan context because in Europe, these are also so many different nationalities and people, so that you don't discriminate whether you're whatever your religion or your caste or your creed or whatever your sexual orientation is or whatever it is. You don't discriminate. If the person can do the job, you do the job. You take it. And you shall be prepared to contribute to public debate on matters. So all these things, a lot of these are there in the IESL Code of Ethics. So basically, and what they are saying is that this is a general thing where the Pan-European Statement on Engineering Ethics and Conduct is the best implemented to the codes issued by the national. So each country, say France and Germany and Italy and Hungary and all these people will use this framework to develop their own code of ethics. But the fundamental things are there, identical to what we have in our IESL Code of Ethics. Now the IC Code of Ethics, here they say the member shall discharge the profession with integrity, that should be honest and shall behave with integrity in relationship to conduct bad upon the standing, represent dignity of the institution and of the profession of civil engineering. So basically, you don't do anything. You are honest, you have to act with honesty, and you do not do anything that will bring disrepute to your profession. The profession of civil engineering, or by and large, the profession of engineering. All members shall only undertake work that they are competent to do. Now, this again is something that has been echoed in the IESL Code of Ethics. All members shall have full regard for public interest, particularly in relation to matters of health, safety, and in relation to well-being of future generations. So here again, they are focusing on what things. So it looks like we all engineers are talking a common language, are we? Then all members shall show due regard for the environment and for the sustainable management of natural resources. All members shall develop their professional knowledge, skills, and competence on a continuing basis. That is CPD, continuing professional development, and shall give all reasonable assistance to further education training and continual professional development of others. So basically, this is identical, almost word for word, what we are saying in our IESL Code of Ethics. And this is the one clause where we is not in ours, but all members, and if they are convicted of a criminal offense or they are disqualified for becoming bankrupt or disqualified as a company, then they are supposed to inform the institution and maybe withdraw them or their membership may be suspended. But all the first five clauses cover identical almost to what we are talking about. The IEEE Code of Ethics. We, the members of the IEEE, in recognition of the importance of our technologies in affecting the quality of life throughout the world, and accept a personal obligation to our profession, its members, and the communities we serve, do hereby commit ourselves to the highest ethical and professional conduct and agree to accept responsibility for making decisions concerning the safety, health, and welfare of the public, and promptly disclose factors that might endanger the public or the environment. Avoid real or perceived conflicts of interest. Again, it looks like a common language. Be honest and realistic in stating claims or estimates. That's also we saw figured in our reject bribery in all its forms. To improve the understanding of technology, its appropriate application and potential. So you always use and develop technology in its appropriate form and apply that as relevant to your work. Maintain and improve our technical competence, that is CPD, by undertaking technical tasks for others only qualified by training and experience. So that is basically you're working within a level of competence to seek and accept, offer criticism for technical works and acknowledge. So we are again be honest in your criticism, give honest criticism, and if somebody points out your mistakes, also accept that as being genuinely given. To treat fairly all persons. Again, this is the question of, regardless of race, gender, religion, disability, or national origins. Again, thing that we should have in our code of ethics as well. To avoid injuring others and their property through false or malicious actions. We saw this thing again highlighted in our code of ethics, where you don't misrepresent the individuals, you don't use false information, you don't spread malicious stories about people because you want to undercut, you don't resort to any form of undercutting or discrediting another fellow engineer. And assist our colleagues and in their professional development. So continuously developing and improving your knowledge is something that is expected of you. Engineers Australia. I'm going to do this a bit fast. I hope you don't mind because I've got 5 or 10 minutes more. Demonstration, integrity, and there they say act on the basis of well-informed, conscious, be honest, and trustworthy, respect the dignity of all persons. Practice competence, that is work within your levels of competence, right? Maintain and develop knowledge and skills, represent areas of competence objectively, act on the basis of adequate knowledge. So it's very, very similar to what we are talking of. Exercise leadership, uphold the reputation and trustworthiness of the practice of engineering. Support and encourage diversity. That is, while you work in different areas, but you are competent to work in those areas, right? And you encourage people to develop into different areas because they become specialists in different fields that they can help you. Make reasonable efforts to communicate honestly and effectively to all stakeholders, taking into account the reliance of others on engineering expertise. Okay? and demonstrate sustainability. Again, sustainability is a major issue globally, right? Because we have the engineers are ruining the environment, and so now sustainability is the one of the key factors in all our engineering work. American Society of Civil Engineers, the knowledge and skill for use your knowledge for the enhancement of human welfare, being honest and impartial, serving with fidelity, that is honesty, increasing the competence and prestige of the profession, and supporting professional and technical society in their disciplines. And again, the main clauses are the engineers shall hold paramount, that's the fundamental canons. These are the main clauses. They will have clauses to be shall hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public in the performance of their professional duties. Shall perform services only in areas of their competence. Shall issue public statements only in a subjective and truthful manner. All these are things that were there in our IESL code and in the other code of ethics also that we saw. Engineers shall act in professional matters for each employer or client as faithful agents and trustees. That is loyalty. Loyalty and shall avoid conflicts of interest. Engineers shall build their professional reputation on merit of their services, shall not compete unfairly with others. So everything that is virtually there in our code of ethics is here. Engineers shall act in such a manner to uphold and enhance the honor, integrity, and dignity of the engineering profession. Engineers shall continue their professional development, that is CPD, throughout their career, and shall provide opportunities for the professional development of those engineers under their supervision. So if we look at the IESL code of ethics, first one where say engineers shall hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public and proper utilization of funds. That is there in the FIANI, in the IC, the American Society of Civil Engineers Australia, and all five of the clauses, the codes of ethics we looked at have this clause. Engineers shall act, the second IESL clause where the engineers shall act in a manner to uphold the honor and integrity of the profession. That is at the IC, Medical Society of Civil Engineers and Engineers Australia. Clause 3 is again about sustainability, and that is there in all five of the examples we looked at. Engineers shall build a reputation merit, that is there in the American Society of Civil Engineers Code. Clause 5 of the IESL, engineers shall perform professional service only in areas of the competence, that is there in all five of those examples we looked at. Clause 6, engineers shall require the skill and interest. This is loyalty. This is in the FIANI one and in the IEEE one. And engineers to give evidence about being truthful and objective in their whatever they say is FIANI, Engineers Australia, and IEEE. And engineers CPD, continuous professional development, is carried there, highlighted all five of these clauses. So if you look at the spread comparison between the IESL Code of Ethics and other engineering institutions, right? Public and the people is there in IESL, FIANI, IC, Australia, IEEE, and American Society. Honor of the profession is there IESL and IC, Australia, and American Society of Civil Engineers. So sustainability is there throughout all five. Own achievements, it's only American Society of Civil Engineers, and specialization, again, all five of them have that. And you only work in areas of your competence. Loyalty is there in FIANI, Australia, and IEEE. Truthfulness is there in, again, FIANI, Australia, and IEEE. Lifelong learning is there in all five. So basically, if you look at it, the four clauses that deal with the welfare, the safety, health, and welfare of the people, the public, is of one of the clauses of paramount importance. Safeguarding the environment is of paramount importance. Working only in areas of your own competence is of paramount importance. And continually developing engineering knowledge is also of total of importance, right? So basically, I think we just gives you a good idea. But and if you take the trouble to look at some of the other engineering codes of ethics of other countries like Singapore or Malaysia or South Africa or New Zealand, you'll find that all of them, and these four clauses are like as if like part of the gospel, and it's and they are things that form the basis of good engineering practice. So I'm going to stop at this point. There are a few more things. And this is what the president, Herbert Hoover, who was the 31st president of the United States of 1929, he was a mining engineer and he was working for a British company before he got into politics. And he worked in various, and he says the great, and this is one thing that you have to be mindful of. The greatest liability of the engineer compared to the men of other professions is that his works are out in the open where all can see them. His acts, step by step, are in hard substance. So what? Right? He cannot bury his mistakes in the grave like the doctor. The doctors can do, they kill. We have so many cases of surgical misadventure, whatever is. Doctors and the poor patient gets buried, and in Sri Lanka you can't even sue the doctors, right? And the man gets buried and the doctor's mistakes all covered up, and that's it. He cannot argue them into thin air or blame the judge like the lawyers do. That's very true. The lawyer will always find the reason why they lost the case and blame the judge or jury or whatever. He cannot, like the architect, cover his failures with trees and vines and camouflage the whole thing. He cannot, like the politicians, very true, screen his shortcomings by blaming his opponents and hope that the people will forget. And our idiots in Sri Lanka keep forgetting what these fellows have done to us. The engineer simply cannot deny he did it. So if a building collapses, your bridge collapses, something goes wrong, he is, and if his works, and if his works do not work, he is damned. So this, please remember this. This is something it's worthwhile you frame this and hang this in your room or keep it on the table, because this, you are responsible for what you do, and you do something wrong, you are in deep trouble. So I will stop at this point. We're now gone for almost 2 hours or thereabouts. So how important is ethics in society today? Everybody, you can see how important. They're all copying. That one man is answering the paper and all the others are trying to print for him. It's very unethical, but anyway, that's what so it's in reality. Disciplinary procedures, you go through it on your own, because I won't. And this is because this is really understands the problem. And I've given 2 case studies. One is the emergency, the excellency building that collapsed in Vellore behind the Savoy Theatre. And the California dam disaster, which was a major disaster. And I'll just touch on the it's worthwhile going through this, because it's, so the ethical issues here were that the dam, the design of this was working because he was designing, he was not done, he had done what was called the gravity dam, then he had not done a concrete dam, right? And he did one dam, the embankment dam, which was really built up with earth, and then and he had done one small concrete dam, and he retook the whole design and put it for this much bigger dam without any changes to the design or no. So he had only one dam which was sort of small, like something like 7,500 acre feet, whereas the dam he was now designing was for 32,000 acre feet. So it was a much bigger dam, and There was no proper geological investigation. If everything was wrong, if you should read, so I will leave this to you to read, and factors of safety became less than one. He said it was so they rushed to try to complete the dam. And this the fault at that time, the 1930s or 90s, where they said that the whole design was left to the basis of one person. Right? There was no team or no people who checked and cross-checked to make sure that the one man knew what he was doing. So one man did the whole thing and the whole thing failed and resulted in a number of people being killed. This is how badly the dam. So I will say just so ethics is basically the right thing, the wrong thing, but quite often what we do is it depends for convenience. It depends. So, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all the best in the A paper or B paper at least that you will be answering. And sorry, hello. Any questions? Do you want to ask any questions or?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Shall I ask some question? I have some question.
Okay.
Some words are given to two clauses. Example, bribery, truthful.
Sorry.
Some words are given two clauses. Example, bribery, truthful. According to the question, how to identify it? What is the correct clause?
No, basically, you see, bribery can happen in under different circumstances. That's why it figures in about, say, in loyalty, in trying to achieve into your own. It can through different ways, different forms of bribery can be used. But basically, bribery per se, where you are trying to buy your whatever you want, your honesty or your achievement is not acceptable. That's what we are trying to say there. That bribery, I know, you see, it's not just, that's why I said like bribery, even like I told you how somebody tried to, by saying, getting down the wife of the director got him because of promoted. I mean, that is also bribery because he bought his way up the ladder. So I think basically that's what it means, where you can, a lot of these things can be now even like truthfulness. It I think comes in the first clause, it also comes in the third clause. So, but basically, in a way, keeps stressing the code of ethics when they were written by some very senior engineers. They highlighted the fact that we need to be aware that these the sins can come in different ways and different circumstances. So that is why you have to be ready to deal with it in any of these areas. Okay, does that answer you? So if you have any questions, you can send it on email to me to Sanjeev or one of these people, one of the office people here.
So,
Yeah.
I couldn't participate throughout the session. So, can we take the recording of this?
Yeah, so no problem. You can take the recording. In fact, I will send this the print of the presentation also. I will send it to Sanjeev so you can ask the IESL and get all this from. This is nothing private. This is common for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So anyhow, good night. Ethics is not
Thank you
something
very much.
that you can finish
Thank you,
off in.
engineer.
Thank you very much.
And I wish you all the very best in passing the B paper because I might be correcting some of the questions at least. Out of the two questions, one question will be handled by me.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome and all the very best in your B paper, A paper, and getting your charter. That's the main thing. And
Thank you. Thank you.
And look forward. The country needs good engineers, and we need you guys to be there. Okay. Good
Thank you
night.
very much. Good
You're
night.
welcome.
Good night.
Bye.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
End of the meeting.